What risks do you see in the market, in the housing market? And I know we can't foresee black swans, or we can't foresee another COVID or any of this kind of stuff. But what dark clouds on the horizon do you see a little bit?
Sure. So, I spend a lot of time thinking about this. It's easy to
You must be
rates.
fun at a party, aren't you?
Yeah, this is kind of what I'm paid to do, is think about where we get the risk from. But it's easy to say rates. I almost feel like that's a layup, and we kind of talked about that. There is a chance that this inflation proves to be a little more persistent than they think. There's a chance that inflationary psychology takes hold, and they've got to raise rates a lot more than 5 or 6 times to get ahead of it. There's a chance. That's a real possibility. It's not my base case, but that's out there. I'll give you one that's maybe a little more imminent and that I worry about quite a bit. So what we're seeing, this is less an issue in Alberta, although I know you guys have some bidding wars for sure there now. But I'm telling you, what I'm seeing in a lot of pockets in Ontario freaks me out. And here's why. I see homes that, in order to win the bidding war, you have to bid 10 to 15 to, in some cases, 20% above any other comparable in the area. And so when you think about what that means, when you go to close the mortgage on that property, the appraiser's got to come in, and of course, you've got to push the closing out as far and the appraisal out as far as you can, and you just got to pray to God that by the time the appraiser comes 60 or 90 days later, the market has caught up with the purchase price. And so far, that has not been an issue. Every time that somebody sets a new record in the area, inevitably 90 days later, everyone else is caught up. You just need the market to soften. All you need is for the market to stop going up 10% in 3 months. And then all of a sudden, all these people that won these bidding wars at 10 or 15% above any other comparable, well, the appraisal comes in, and they're like, there's nothing that justifies this. Prices have been flat since you bid this. And so you're 15% under. Well, now you've got buyers that have to scramble to come up with additional capital to close. That's something that I worry about a lot, especially if, I shouldn't say I worry about a lot, but when I think about the back half of this year, likely hitting a bit of a demand gap and maybe a little bit less demand, and prices maybe start to flatten out a little, that will create an issue for people who are paying peak prices this spring. And what we saw in parts of Toronto in 2017, some measures were brought in to cool the market. This exact dynamic unfolded. People who had bought thinking that they'd be able to appraise, they couldn't, or they bought one home thinking they could sell their existing home. Because that's the thing, in a hot market, you buy first and then you sell later. And that's fine as long as you can get peak price for the home that you're in, because you just paid peak price for the one that you just bid on. And so you get all these kind of non-linear dynamics, and those tend to unwind in kind of an ugly manner, and you get a lot of distressed selling. And all you don't need a crash. You just need prices to go flat or go up by a couple percent instead of 10%. And that's all it takes to create some real issues. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a bit of that dynamic at play in the back half of this year. So that's something to be mindful of.
I lived through that in many respects. That's what happened in 2006, 2007, 2008 in Alberta. One year there was a 74%. There was like 47, 74, 30% year on year growth. And all of a sudden I remember the day, it was in August. And I remember seeing the newspaper article, sales finally drops or something, first time in last decade or something it was. And that was the start. And you know what happened after that? Literally nothing for 15 years. It's been flat, if not even down that it was since 15 years ago.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, that's certainly not, my base case for what's going to happen. But when I think about the people who this spring are about to pay top dollar and potentially, 10, 15% above any other comparable in an insane bidding war, those people are going to get caught when the market just starts to slow a little bit. Not even like prices falling, but when they stop going up 3 or 4 or 5% a month. Yep. That's all it's going to take is for them to flatline. And then you better hope they've got capital to close, because, the bank's only going to lend them the 80% or whatever it is. It's 80% of the appraised value, not 80% of the purchase price. So they're going to have to make up that difference. And that creates these potentially distressed sales and all sorts of ugly. And that can kind of snowball pretty quickly, especially once you get a few news stories that come out about these people getting burned, and then everyone else goes, oh, geez, maybe I should wait too. And the psychology flips very quickly. We saw that in 2017. Now, that's probably not going to be a massive crash or housing cycle, but it's painful for the handful of people that bought it right at the peak. And so that's just, one of those things to be mindful of, because I do think we're close to that. We just saw prices nationally rose almost 3% in 1 month. That's $24,000 in 1 month. That's insane. We've never seen that before. When that drops to 1% a month or 0.5% a month, that's still a strong market. But for the people who are expecting 3% growth, that's a real problem when they go to close. And that's all it takes to cause some issues.
Well, it's like the analogy I use is, if you're driving along on a freeway on the connector there, and you're going at 140 kilometers an hour, and then all of a sudden you go even to 100 kilometers an hour, it feels like you're stopped. Or maybe you go through a construction zone and you have to go down to 60. You're still moving, but it feels like you're crawling.
I love that analogy. That's actually an analogy I've used before too. You're absolutely right. That's exactly the right way to think about it. Still a strong market, but it's going to feel much slower. Yeah, I agree with that.
Don't get misunderstand me, guys. I think there's actually some things going to bolster the market from having a catastrophic drop, and that is the supply-demand offset that we've talked about. Is there's a strong demand, there's no supply, so that'll keep things strong. The other there is the immigration and the people coming in is just going to even exacerbate, there's a dollar word for you, is going to make it even worse. So I don't foresee any giant collapses, but I also don't foresee any giant torrid pace that has been going on for the last couple years as well.
No, I think that's the right way to think about it. Just if you're in a crazy bidding war in places like Ontario and you're thinking about paying 15% above any comparable to beat everybody else in a bidding war, like just recognize that there's a risk the appraisal doesn't come in, and then what are you going to do? Right?
Yep.
That's
how are you going to close on it? Right.
Right. That's it. And so that's not like a structural housing crash type issue, but for a handful of buyers, it's going to be pretty shitty.
Yeah.
So
it'll be painful.
Yeah.
Your jubilation just goes to pain very quickly here. So
yeah.
If you'd like to continue your journey as a successful real estate investor, only 2 simple next steps from here. Number 1 is please subscribe to get all the latest information and latest videos sent directly to you. And over here is a hand-selected video, a video that's been hand-selected for you to help you keep moving forward with velocity. Thank you very much.